Do you want me to facilitate here? Because I'm not a member of this committee, but I was going to help start this. You know, when I think one of the things on here we're going to. Oh, I'm sorry. Pass those around. Are you going to record this?
Yeah.
There's a portion that I need an executive session.
Okay, let me know when we go into executive. And
Usually we don't, but I mean, that's if you want to do it, there's just certain things that I've got confidence, I want to share.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be important to this group.
Yeah, let me know when we go to executive and I'll.
Yep, I mean, it's not on here, so. But, you know, one of the things we're going to have to do is do officers. But when you hear them, the first things you have to do, who's ever president has to read this first thing here. So you call the meeting to order. This notice is posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the Maritime Safety Committee of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, will be meeting on January 16th, 2025 at 3 p.m. at the City Hall Council Chambers, 1800 Space Park Drive, Suite 200, Nassau Bay, Texas, 77058. Call to order, and you do the roll call. I think we're all present. I don't believe there's anybody missing. Is that correct? Does everybody know each other?
No.
Why don't we go around and give introductions? And I'll start. Well, either way, I'm Phil Johnson, the mayor, chief cook, and bottle washer. So go pass it.
I'm Audrey Hervey. My nickname is Herb or Herb. Retired Navy. Lived here since 2011. And glad to be here.
Peter. Go by Herb, H-E-R-B.
Herb. Well, my last name is Hervey, but I was reared in Mississippi, and everybody said Herb. But so either one works, right?
Yeah, it's the Hispanic pronunciation of Herb, right?
Well, I don't know about that. They just said Herb.
Jason Small, live on Upper Bay, been here since 2018.
Glad you're here, Jason.
Thank you. Good to meet you all.
Jeff Horton, I'm on Bay Press, been here since 2015.
Great.
Retired.
Tom George, got here in '88, fire department.
Brian Brown, I'm a merchant mariner, tug captain, and live on Davon, and I've been here since 18.
Tim Cromie, chief of police, and I've been here since 2018.
Jim Stoll, been here since 84, actually, 1984. Live on Hereford.
So 1 or 2 years.
Huh?
1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
All right, so there's an introduction. We've called, so we've had all roll call. You know, there's a item here that goes citizens comments. You open it up for people who may be attending. I don't see anybody here, but I generally go, hey, anybody want to speak? They say, you know, yay or nay. You come up and limit them to 3 minutes. And once you think it's stopped or nobody's here, you go once, going twice, going 3 times, close. You gotta give three go arounds. And I do it kind of humorously, but it is, you gotta give more than one thing. It's things. And then you just go into new business, and we read it here: establishment and initial meeting of the Maritime Committee to formally establish Maritime Committee to find its purpose and outlines its initial priorities and operational framework. So part of the establishment of the Maritime is you need a president, vice president, and a secretary. Okay, so we need or you can say it this way: chair, vice chair, secretary. So from that standpoint, you know, I don't know if you guys have talked or things like that, but I think you just met each other. But I think we need to do that. Is anybody here, you know, looking at being able to be there, which means you'd set up the time, you'd work with Maria in order to get an agenda posted. You'd be the one responsible for the agenda items as it's going on from the committee, and then it gets printed up 72 hours before so you can make it. So it's kind of a lead issue person, as well as the main, liaison to the city secretary to make sure we post for open meetings.
What's as far as cadence, is it monthly is the idea?
That's up to you guys.
Okay.
That's up to you guys. So generally, and again, this is really up for y'all, is when a new committee comes up, they usually meet monthly for a period of time, just to get into the swing of things and get stuff up and going. And then they meet at a frequency where they think it's necessary. And I've seen it go, we've got an RDA that meets once per year, which is now gonna go, with some things maybe going once a month for a while. This, you may decide to go once a month and then move it to quarterly and do things. That's really up to y'all. There's nothing prescribed to do. It's really, meet however is necessary. And the only thing I do is make sure, you keep track of these guys' time and what you're doing, because they've got to park the water to come attend these meetings. So, okay. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
So is there anybody here who has some extra time or has some things here that would be interested in being the chair of the president of the committee?
How about the new guy in town?
That's not me.
I can swing it, especially with, with my work schedule, with being on the boat, I can always usually find a little bit extra time I can just parcel aside to set agendas and do communication and stuff, so.
I'll be your right-hand person, Vice.
Sounds good.
Does that sound good? And you need a secretary, so for minutes and stuff like that, there's that, the person who, you got a recording, you can use those. I think those things have to be given to Maria so that they can be a formal record, because this is a committee and there needs to be a formal record. So anybody care to be the secretary?
What is that job entail?
It just minute taking, or if you're recording it, make sure the recording gets to Maria so that it can be done. Vice chair steps in if for a reason you have to be called out and you've got a meeting, you step in and lead the meeting. And the secretary is there really just to make sure we take care of all Open Meetings Act responsibilities.
Yeah, I can.
You can do that? Thank you.
So it's not having to actually compile the minutes, but get over Maria and
She's the one who transcribes it to paper. Okay, and then so with that, I can't make the motion with somebody here. You'd have to move for Brian, Herb, and Jason, so that you guys are the officers, and then it has to be voted on. So it's seconded and voted on.
Make the motion.
You make the motion, just what I said. Second, is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, there's a second. Then the call for the vote. All those in favor? Would be 5-0, which means you're now the chair. I'll give this to you, but I'll help, all right? I'll help this first one, because this is the part where we should. Oh, you got it?
We got the
Okay.
same agenda.
All right, that's all right. That's going around.
Passed a bunch of copies on.
So, I think everybody understands the reasons why we put this together. I mean, we've got quite a number of different areas on the water that are just, were unsafe. And I think from what I've seen, at least on social media, 95% of the people who saw the actions that we've taken have been supportive. And that's rare, because usually you hear the people who object. But be it the Party Cove, or be it the voters of Clear Lake or whatever, and the people that made comments, I think they're very pleased that we made the residential areas a no wake zone. I know that helps the police to be able to do things. It may have some resource needs here in the beginning, because not everybody's doing it. But I can tell you from what I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen in other places, people see the signs, and voters are usually pretty respectful. And it's only down to a couple of people who still just do what they're going to do. But that's something we'll deal with. The purpose was really just to look and review what things needed to enhance safety on the water. We're still a recreational community, so we got some real balancing to do. And the initial things, talking to the chief and Tom, is we still have a real lack of signage out there, to tell people, what the rules of the game are, and to put it in a very visible and conspicuous place. And I really wanted this group to be able to start to, take an inventory of where everything was and at least begin there. Because I think a lot of education, because like if you look at some of our parks, we have a big sign at the very beginning, and I envision something like that, which basically lays out the rules for our recreation areas, and then has some stuff there.
So, Mayor, just to the point of the no wake zone and the new signage out there, I think Tom's already had some input from some voters that the signage is very small.
It is small.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that for no wake zones, what's kind of the standard is buoys. That's what everybody's kind of recognizable, so I think it would be, what I've seen, I have a good view of it there, is there's pretty good, like, in the channel, I've seen people for the most part come down, then they come out of the channel and head to Party Cove, and they think they're out of it, so they jump back up on Plain again, or plow through. I think some, a few buoys placed would get even better adherence to it.
I don't know, did I divert from where we are on the agenda?
No, that's part of the discussion is priorities as to whether we do.
So, and I don't know if I have it with me, but and we can look at it another meeting. I know Tom and I had looked at, and I don't have any of the maps with me. Map or no, that's the old signage. But we can get you some maps sent out that we had looked at last year, where to place some buoys and
You
stuff.
did a lot of work there, if I remember.
And yeah, we did. And one of the things that's brought up during, I apologize if I don't want to take over, but
No.
one of the things that's brought up is the distance away, being 300 feet away from the residential area and stuff. And one of the things that Tom and I were looking at was, trying to put some buoys out in the channel in the Party Cove area. We're not calling it Party
It's
Cove.
the code now.
The coves, yeah.
Just so you know, even on Google, it doesn't say Party Code anymore.
Yeah. From the meeting during the summer, I think one of our residents went on there on Google, and apparently you can make some changes yourself on Google, and they took the Party Code off of there, try to help out. But anyhow, we were looking at putting some of those buoys at 300-foot markers and kind of trying to help the boaters understand, you can't anchor up any closer than this. And we have those.
I'll send out the report that I did that shows where every buoy and sign is currently.
Yeah.
What might be good here is, and I've got a pad of paper, and let me see here. I'd like to get everybody's email and phone numbers so that you guys have that among yourselves. So.
Just got one. You talking about this one?
Is that the one that has the pictures of every buoy and every sign?
Yeah. Yeah, but I've only got one copy here.
I'll send it out. Yeah, there's a map. That's the
Yeah.
map that shows where all the current signs.
Yeah,
and
this
buoys
is
are.
what we're talking about. We can pass it around and look at it right now, but we don't have copies for everybody.
And so what you see is every sign and buoy from the cove all the way up to the creek, all the way up to the Nassau Bay Marina is marked. That's that page.
Yeah.
And then it describes what condition it is. The next page shows you where the 100-yard mark is from the shoreline and the curve.
Still gives plenty of anchoring down in the
Yeah.
cove itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And intended smartly so, no anchoring at the
Yeah,
choke
because there's
point.
current signs that say within you stay off
And it's kind
100
of funny,
yards.
so Tom and I reached out to each other on the same day, and we both done the same project without knowing it.
Yep. I mean, the area that I really, got a soft spot for is the people down on Harbor Mark meet down there on, what is that, Grenada and,
Yeah, Grenada.
Harbor, yeah. People go there, they don't realize, they think they're going in the far corner, and I think they think they're being in the most, obscure spot, but it's literally right off the backyard of those homes right there. So I really want to make sure we put some attention there, because my heart goes out to the people that's where most of the loud music people play. That's right on somebody's backyard.
You're talking about on code.
The code,
And all
yeah.
that sound reverberates off the trees, and then
Everything.
being over water, sound travels better over water, and so it just
they've got a dog there that will go crazy, you know, it's just, you know, I'd like some attention there if we can. But I do, I mean, we've never had a sign that was big enough that said, you know, this is a residential, you know, waterway, right? No wake, you know, cannot anchor, you know, 300 feet from a, you know, a resident or a fixed thing. You know, you cannot, you know, be closer than, I think it's like 100 feet from any boats that are rafted, you know, just all the rules that are there, and just have it big so people can see them. And that way it's clear and people realize it. Because this is probably a time, can we just have because there's a confidentiality thing I want to talk about. And I'm gonna hold everybody to confidentiality.
Okay, hold on.
Chief, was there any thought given to
anyway, so I asked H if they have it over there, so we brought, like, there were 50 people there last night.
Yeah.
And it was a good turnout. There were different people that represented the community around here. Seabrook was there, and
Mhm.
a couple of sheriff's departments there. Anyway, we have at least 100 boats there sinking in Clear Lake, and some. Chief Cromie and Tom George took care of one of the boats, or two of the boats that came from League City over here, and like in a heartbeat, and they were gone.
Yeah.
But some of the other people are not doing that. In front of the Sam's boat, there's a whole bunch of boats anchored over there, you'll see, and there's people living on derelict boats and whatnot. But I bragged on the city last night for getting rid of the boats over there, and they were acknowledged.
There's a good debate on it, because, I mean, we obviously are financially responsible for those
Yes,
boats.
absolutely.
So.
Yeah, there's a process to go through to have them declared derelict by the
Right.
General Land Office. And the issue is it's a lengthy process, you know, looking at probably a minimum of 30 days, if not more, that those boats are gonna be sitting there. Like the two that we had that showed up right off of Harbor, that were across over there on the League City Nature Preserve, and they showed across during one of the northern
Yeah.
things that came through, and so the cities had to put out some money to have them removed and have them in storage while we wait for. We had to send out letters to the registered owners, wait for time, you know, and now so we haven't had any response from the owners for those two boats, and so those two boats are probably gonna have to go up for auction, as per the transportation code and the statutes in the transportation code. So we might be able to recoup some of our money. There is a program that Galveston County is involved with the General Land Office, that they've got through some grants to get rid of some of these boats, through the grant money, that they crush them and destroy them and stuff like that. But that's for Galveston County, so.
I think it's only like boats up to 25 feet or something.
Yeah, there's some restrictions. Yeah, I talked to Garrett Foskett, who's the,
My issue was, it was right in a place that was just a safety,
Yeah.
just hazard.
So when these boats do wash up, we're as a city able to remove them
We
right
are.
away, we just have to store them somewhere.
it just
until-
costs money.
There's a process, correct?
There's a process in order to get them out of there.
The navigation hazard and then the environmental hazard, those can be mitigated right away.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but we have to pay for that.
Well, yeah.
So, and the issue is, you know, is when the boats go to auction, is there enough value in the boat to recoup the city's money? And the problem we have with these two boats, I mean, there's no money in the budget right now that's set aside for, you know, derelict boats or, you know, because what we do is, it's basically the same idea when we have a car that's abandoned on the roadway or something here. We call one of the wreckers, and they come out, and we're using the same transportation code. But the wreckers have a process of, they handle all of the recouping of, you know, that's, we don't pay them to come out and pick them up. They don't get a fee from us, but then they put a lien on the car and those type of things. And, so hopefully we don't have too many boats that we have to get in, you know, for that issue. So, I think since I've been here, 6 years, these are the only two boats that we've had to deal with.
Well, there's another one still sitting, I guess it's in League City.
On the city side.
But
The
yeah,
one
same
that's
problem.
anchored out in the middle of it, yeah, that one's anchored out there, and it's already, the GLO has tagged it.
Okay.
When they tagged these two for us, they tagged that one, but that's outside our jurisdiction, we don't have anything, so I don't know what's happening with that one, I don't know. if
Could be a liveaboard on that boat too, could be a liveaboard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I spoke to one of my friends that's on that council over there in League City, and they basically don't want anything to do with that boat. So their
Yeah.
hope is that it washes somewhere where someone cares.
Well, I guess I'd say you're looking at somebody who does care, because I mean, that's basically our backyard, and it's our citizens who have to basically suffer.
I'll talk to Garrett Foskett with Galveston County, who's handling he's their nuisance abatement guy over there. He's the one that's in charge of this, and I'll see if he knows about this boat out there. You know, the problem is getting it to them. You've got to get it to their site, and then they'll pick it up and they'll crush it and everything. So, but I think they work with Phillips USA and stuff to help with that. So, or the Dead Boat Society can drag it over there to them,
Right.
and then they'll take care of destroying it and get it out of there. So.
It's funny you mentioned that question. So last night they were talking about citizens who can go out there and we should do something like
Go
that.
out and do what?
Talk to people on their boats, that are living on their boats.
Talk to them about wood.
But their boats should be derelict boats that are out there.
Oh,
Well, that's the question, if someone's living on it, is it technically derelict?
I don't know.
It's,
It doesn't move, so,
I guess it depends on whose jurisdiction they're in.
yeah.
I mean, if there's no restriction for them anchoring, then
Yeah.
just being out there, isn't it?
Unless you're in a waterway that's,
Yeah, unless it's in a way which is not regulations.
Yeah, if it's in the middle of a navigable waterway, then it's a hazard.
So anyways, you know, to me, I think one of the very first things we have to do is really look at our signage around the neighborhood. Where do we want it? What's the size? You know, what buoys, what demarcations?
do we need more, do we need less?
Yes.
well, the sign they took down.
I think we definitely need
More,
more.
well, yeah, I was saying, but like certain areas, do we have enough, do we
And,
got too much?
I actually think if we need to replace the signs that we have and just have them in other areas, do it. You know, right now, I can tell you, the Economic Development Corporation probably has about $20,000 that can help just do seed money until we get into a budget of what we want to do. I don't want you guys to not feel like you have the ability to make, you know, immediate action. So we'll take care of that, you know, budgetary line item, but that's what I would say is initially you got about 20 grand to deal with for signage, and if you need more, just ask, because this is,
The sign that was removed about no excessive weight,
And replaced with the no wake.
yeah, and that sign is way too small.
it is.
The other sign was
The
good size.
best thing that was there is that it got put on, you know, a number of different websites, and that sent the word around.
Yeah.
And, you know, but you're right, I think they need to be about 2 or 3 times bigger. I mean, we can use those elsewhere in different places, but, you know, I think it was important to get something up. And I think there's also you know, coming through the channel right here, they're actually pretty good, you know, they're maybe useful just to put them all on the ones here, you know,
And that's
because
our
they're coming
problem.
in. But, you know, I think we have what is it, a sign here,
There's one
right?
sign there.
There's one over here. There's a place to put one here, but they haven't done it yet, where the danger is. I think we should put one there. I mean, that's without having to put new pilings in. And then, you know, just so you know, the homeowners association is wanting to get out of these pilings, so the city's probably gonna take it over.
Thank you, sir.
So, you know, we can put stuff there, and then, you know, I think we just have to look to see exactly where we wanna put them. You know, I'd love to see one, there used to be, but that's gone, I think I took it out, but there used to be a big wooden sign right here with rules, and it's gone now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't notice that. They're talking about the.
I mean, this is 2008 timeframe, 2000.
Oh, well, there was one recently that's still out there.
There is one out there, but it just,
You can't see it.
It has rules, but you can't read it.
You can't read
I'm
it.
in a kayak and I can barely see it.
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get something up there like that, and just let people know, because I think it's gonna get real important here in a year.
So, one of the things is that I'm also involved with the Houston Kayak Club. And, they're very, you know, paddlers are interesting. I put on a paddling event for 5 of them last year, within the last 15 months, and for raising money for post-traumatic stress disorder. And, the Houston Canoe Club warns people about paddling around Nassau Bay because of the speeding boats. And that same thing you'll have a problem with. I mean, those boats come around that corner, and it's so dangerous.
You're talking right here.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Right
and-
here,
and-
as well as right,
Yes, yes.
right.
Because, and you know, there's plenty of places to water ski over here,
I launch off that.
but this is so dangerous.
You can also water ski up here. Can't right here because it's
Very
really
shallow, yeah.
It's shallow.
Yeah.
Bill, what's the difference in these designations? I see, it looks like marine public, marine residential, marine commercial, and then marine residential inland. I'm not sure what that is. I can't read that.
Yeah, I mean, I know, what in our book of ordinances, it says the restrictions for those areas as to what's allowed and what's not.
Okay.
And I would defer to that book rather than my memory.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying that the Hilton's, that's the marine
Commercial.
commercial, looks like.
Right.
Where the yacht club right there, over in Mile Harbor, that's considered residential. since it's an
Yep,
HOA.
see, marine residential. And then I see here there's marine public in there, right at
Yeah.
the cut.
Yeah, so what code is that you're saying?
It's in our ordinance, it's in our zoning ordinances,
The city?
the city.
Okay.
Yeah, these are, because this is, what you see here on these outlines is what we annexed,
I see, okay.
right? So as you see halfway through the bayou,
The green.
you know, yeah, so the Clear Creek is actually the formal boundary between Harris County and Galveston County.
Right.
Yeah.
So it splits the waterway in half. So our jurisdiction is on the northern half or the southern part of Harris County. And that line right there is what is, and I think the Harris County, I believe it follows the Harris County, Galveston County designation.
And have you already started, I know, I think in the meeting this summer you talked about having conversations with League City about Clear Creek, making us have ownership of each.
Correct.
Has that?
It hasn't progressed much at all, just honestly.
I think some of it is I don't even think Lee City knows if they own that half or if it's Galveston County. Like we had annexed from Harris County, we don't know if they've annexed from Galveston.
Yeah,
County.
I don't know. The other side of that too is, you know, we're the side where there's actually quite a bit of, you know, home construction, things along that
Yeah.
line. So it's more of our problem than other people's problem.
Yeah, League City, in the creek itself right there, the League City doesn't have a whole lot of interest.
Yeah,
Not
particularly right,
No,
Yeah,
Well, that's already in a way.
right, particularly right through here.
But once,
This is what I consider a true danger zone.
Yep.
Yeah.
League City's looking at increasing the traffic as you get
Yeah.
up towards 45 because
Right.
they put that big investment in with
Right behind you.
their version of like a riverfront
Yep.
destination, which is supposed to be.
Where is
This
it?
is
Yeah,
where you're
so.
talking about the
Look like Great Wolf?
No.
That's right.
It'd be neither, but it's,
Actually further down.
so all through here, right, is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, so as you get closer to 45, right back
Right.
where, behind where Old Sudi's
So they have,
was.
there's a hotel there, right?
So you have the old Sudi's and stuff right in
Yeah,
here.
correct.
So all this
That's
back
what I-
here, they're putting in mixed-use residential,
Yeah.
riverfront,
They're
commercial.
putting in all sorts of docks,
Yep.
you know, for kayaks, yeah, they're spending, what I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, $12 million?
17 of public funds
Yeah.
going into it.
Yeah, they're gonna put in some serious, I mean, they're making it they wanna attract more waterfront from here, which means, you know, this is gonna become even
Yeah.
more because they're gonna wanna fly,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, to get to here, right?
We'll be able to control the inbound side essentially, but the outbound side, we don't control that because that's their water.
You've got, I mean, right now you've got no lake in this section, basically between.
Right here.
The point there and all the way past the wharf.
Correct.
And then you've got another section right past the highway.
We that's as far as we wanted, we did what we thought was the blatantly obvious,
Yeah.
right, which is just here,
I know, I was saying-
and here.
I was saying.
But we haven't done, I mean, there's a no wait because of this marina here, if I remember.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to like.
I'll bet you those signs aren't even
Here, so this is already posted, no wake, and it's pretty well observed from what I've seen. And there's no wake right here
Because
because
of
of
the
the
boat
boat
ramp.
ramp.
But if you take a look at these buoys over here,
Yeah.
they look like they've been there forever and they're not movable.
I'll tell you though, people fly
They
around
do,
here.
they do.
And literally the one is or whatever, they love to see how fast they can take that turn. I mean, it's like racing, right? They feel like, you know, it's the thing to do.
There's no markations about, caution going through the
Nothing.
area. I mean, from one aspect, you know, obviously you wanna make it as safe as humanly possible, but at the same time, you don't wanna someone have to take 45 minutes, so to speak, just to get through that one little area.
Yeah.
Are you going out the door?
Just going to piss, yes.
You're gonna need a key to get back in this.
I do? Well, that's important.
It is.
Yeah. To get the door coming back into this area, you're gonna need to.
Okay.
Okay.
Splendid, thanks.
You know, and just so you know, we're planning on putting a boat, you know, floating dock
Right there.
right about here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the kayak launch is right
Yeah, we're upgrading that whole area thanks to right here, which means it's gonna become even more important than what we do around here.
Yeah, if it's
And
a-
I would point for this committee to focus, because I'm meeting with the people to, you know, who do the things, to, you know, I mean, I'm expecting probably sometime around May, June, that's gonna go in.
Yeah.
So.
So it will,
Yeah.
it will. That's why, you know,
So I made a recommendation, I submitted the drawings to make it wide enough so the safety boat can go in there also if needed. Because that'll slow people up just by seeing that boat. It'll slow people up.
you know, I would even look to this committee, you know, to see if there's a recommendation. I mean, do we need something other than the public safety boat, like maybe some jet skis or something like that that are easier to get in and out rather than power up or whatever? You know, just, you know, how do we make it easier for us to, you know, project control so that people
I
can
think,
scoop the stuff?
I mean, I go through that area back there around the creek and the wharf a lot, and I've never once seen anybody, complain or clown through there. I mean, everybody observes, and
I mean,
nobody.
right where the marine is?
Where the marina is.
Yeah,
Well, even
correct.
past the marina, there's that section of homes there, right?
Yeah.
That it goes up there, and, but again, those buoys have been there, they've been there for a long time.
They have.
And they're
And people
decades.
just- Yeah, people
Decades.
naturally observe them, right? There's no patrolling that's needed.
Yep.
And I think I mean, patrolling is great, right? But obviously, if we can get to where people observe the signage and observe the buoys, that's gonna be.
A lot of these dead boats are also coming out of the wharf.
I'm sure, yeah, that marina's.
It's in bad shape.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to not allow liveaboards over there anymore, and there's liveaboards there for a long time, so.
So when I was talking to the, tow, you said, I don't remember which one it was, they,
Thank you.
about the boats, they actually were getting calls from pieces of the wharf was going through and cleaning out all the,
Right.
you know, not paying and slips and stuff, and they were actually getting, they would not touch these boats to tow them to where we needed them. We had to go to, True North.
Yeah.
But even if the owners from these boats in the wharf said, hey, will you take this boat? And they wanted, and they were getting calls that people just wanted to take them out and anchor them out somewhere
Right.
for them so they can get them out of the slips without it, and so they wouldn't even touch it.
Really?
You know, for the owners.
Yeah.
So,
Marinadale Salt did the same thing, they took people that are non-paying and moved those boats out in the
yeah,
water.
so they said, you know, they were only,
Yeah.
for the owners, they would only
Shicky
take
Mickey,
the
as I
boat,
call it. You know,
move it,
it's
if it
really
was going
shicky
to
Mickey.
someplace secure, another marina or somebody's home dock or something like that, so they're aware of it too, so I'm sure there were a lot of those boats at nighttime that were just pulled out and dropped off, you know, yeah.
I have a buddy that lives in, I feel like Shores, and he had one end up on his dock. It was his deal with that.
It is, yep.
And then they gang up.
So it might be something to look into then, especially, you know, as we do have a marina over there in the Bow Harbor area. You know, as we may need to look at maybe derelict boat ordinance as well.
Do we have I mean, I don't even know if we have an ordinance that restricts people from doing or leaving anchored boats abandoned in areas to be able to even empower the chief to do it.
We did it, about 5 years ago, enacted an ordinance, not necessarily a derelict ordinance, it was if a boat was in disrepair and more insightful, let me find it,
Or abandoned. That's to me the worst thing.
Yeah, this is more for the ones that were here on.
Cause I know people have some decent boats that they're in over their heads, so they just abandon
I
them,
think COVID had a lot to do with it.
you know?
So the other thing I brought up last night was that we were forming a group like we have here right now, to everybody last night. I said, you know, we've started something like that in Nassau Bay. Everybody said, that's a good idea. Other cities aren't doing this.
Yeah, I know, they should.
I think we could join forces together with them and
I
do
think-
a lot of good.
I think, you know, excuse me. I think the interests align,
Yeah.
I really do. So,
I think once we get our feet under us and we can bring them in and maybe even reach out to, you know, partners in enforcement on the lake, you know.
correct.
Coast Guard Auxiliary, for instance, does a lot of, in my flotel out of Seabrook, they do a lot of, you know, vessel inspections. So if we come up with, say, a new set of rules or new guidelines that the city passes, we can get that information out, you know,
To the right people.
to the right people, because, you know, people get their vessel safety checks, you know, annual vessel safety check, it's free. Coast Guard or local power squadron comes out, they do the inspection, and they'll hand you a bunch of information, you know, updated pamphlets and things like that. So, you know, updates to, you know, any boating regulations in the area, which, I mean, going to a no-wake zone for us, that's a big change.
It is.
They also report, aids to navigation,
Yeah.
lights out, or
Yeah, but
signage,
nobody's
and
doing
things
that.
right or not, but the opportunity to collaborate with them
Right.
closer through this committee.
One of the conversations we had last night too, that goes on all the time, is all the pirates that go out and steal stuff off of boats in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I mean, I would think we already have ordinances that would keep theft.
Yeah, there's state laws for those.
Yeah. But I mean, again, some things that were discussed at the workshop is, for those who are there, I'm just gonna remind, is, you know, people have said this is so much of a destination, is there something we should manage here?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'll say this is 95% of the people coming in here are not Nassau Bay people, right? And we have to deal with their trash, we have to deal with their you know, BS, noise and all the things like that, resources that we have to do. We don't get any revenue from this, you know, unless, you know, we really start clamping down, which I'm hoping, so that we make people behave, and you do that, in my view, by citation. But even further is your ideas, and again, I'm not being prescriptive here. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think this is a beginning of a discussion. Is, I mean, do we want to have, moorings that are out here that manage the capacity of how many people can be here at any one time? Right? I don't know. Right? Is there something that you have to have a permit in order to be able to anchor here? I mean, I don't know what the answer is, right? You know, so there's that, like I mentioned with the signage, you know, there's things along that line. And then again, any additional laws that we need to do to help empower the chief, so that we're not just, you know, out there bullying people, that we just have to force the law. And I don't know if there's abandoned ones or not, but I think that would be an obvious.
Well, here's one thing that's really obvious.
Oh, I know the other thing. People also were saying, you know, do we want cameras, you know, that are tied in with solar panels, that you'd be able to read the boating, you know, registration numbers. You know, to me, there's an issue of, you know, privacy, you know, but I mean, there may be some things to do there. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to be prescriptive. I'm just saying some ideas that came up to think about that would be able to aid any enforcement, because cameras would really help. Where, you know, like I'll say here, we had the guy in that wind, you know, the fan boat, right, out here 5, 6, 7 times, and because we're not out there, they could get in and get out before we mobilize and different do there. But he had his registration number. If we had a way to pick that up, we would have been able to nab him, you know, with because of pictures.
I sat out here at the dog park in the middle of the night at 8 o'clock in the evening with my dog and watched surfers come by, pulling people after dark, pulling surfers on behind their boats, and a jet ski coming at 90, 80 miles an hour around that corner.
Yeah.
And I say, don't hit each other when I'm here, please.
Is the city using cameras in the neighborhood right now?
We have a flock system.
We have 13 cameras. They're at each one of the entrances coming into the city. There's one down here on Space Park behind the hotels, and then there's one at the entrance to the park.
Is it working well?
Huh?
Is it working well for you?
It's working well. They're license plate readers, and they all they do is grab the license plates off the vehicle. They don't grab speed or anything like that. They're just still pictures.
It's not like you can connect to them and watch stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, but if
Yeah.
something happens, you could go back and reference the.
And I know Webster and League City utilize them a lot and get a lot of hits for stolen vehicles and things that they're looking for. We don't get that because, you know, nobody drives through Nassau Bay. You're coming into Nassau Bay for a reason. You're not just driving, but they have traffic coming through, you know, Highway 3, I-45, and so they get a lot. We have been able to utilize it in some of our investigative going back, to get those and things like that, so.
So this is a real issue because, I mean, like, we have certain events that happen that people start to say, why don't we have more cameras in the city? And I'll mention two. The vandalism that took place to the duck feeders, that were twice, really infuriated some of the neighbors, and wanted to know why we couldn't be able to identify the people who did that. And we don't really, you know, if it happens at 2 o'clock in the morning, we really don't have any means by which to do that. The other was the vandalism over at Swan Lagoon, you know, the park there. You know, people wonder why, you know, why can't we have better, you know, identification and control over stuff? And that's a hot topic, guys. It is, but I mean, you know, if it's in a less pervasive, you know, area where it doesn't go into, you know, privacy things, I think there's probably more support for it. But, you know, there's people who say, do we really need cameras to watch watch kids and stuff like that? You know, or not. And, you know, it's an open debate.
Also, the conversation was last night, we know that most people are reserve officers and they're not on the water at nighttime because of the lack of income. So there's no really people patrolling the water at nighttime, law enforcement.
Yeah, right.
Nobody.
I'll just jump back to the permit. I mean, I think that so the idea about putting mooring balls out there, I think is great. The problem is that there's an expense and maintenance and everything to that with those, and I'm not sure that ultimately makes sense. The permitting, the permitting, I think that the one thing is it may not give you the ability to control capacity, but it does, you could charge for permits potentially. But more importantly, you get registration of the permits and you have the ability to revoke permits, right? So it gives you a lot more teeth when you're approaching a boat with issues. And it gives you the traceability of being able to know who's with the boat in a certain permit and be able to control there. So, and I think it's a relatively low lift to do that.
Yeah,
You have to get permits for the pool and other things.
Correct. I mean, you could have something that you have to put on the front of your boat to be not visibility. Right. I mean, again, once you open this door, there's logical ways to do it.
South Padre, like the beach down there, it's similar. You have to have a permit to be, it's an open boat beach, you can drive on the beach, but you have to have a permit to be there. And we were down there before and the police drove up and said, do you have a permit? I didn't know anything about it. I said, no, I don't. He said, I'm glad to sell you one right now, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
Permit. Give me your driver's license. All of a sudden, he has my information right there. Here's my permit number.
But I believe that we need to look at something like that because I'll just say this is, you know, we're a small city. We don't have funds out. I mean, we've done a lot fiscally to make it so that we have more money. But at the end of the day, you're talking about needing manpower out there, you know. We've got some of the folks from the volunteer fire department, because they train to be out on that boat and work with like an officer, but in order to cite somebody,
Yeah.
you know, you need a police officer.
Yeah, so I guess Tom and I, Chief George, should explain to you how the operation is, you know, during the summertime. Because we have limited personnel. I have 12 officers assigned 24/7 to the streets. If I have, there's 14 of us, including myself, detective, 2 sergeants, 2 corporals, and 8 officers. That's what we have for the police department, 14 officers. If I have everybody working, nobody's out sick, nobody's on vacation, nobody's at training, that gives me an average of 2.8 officers to take care of this entire city, if everybody is working at one time. So during the summer, when we're out on the boats, I don't have the luxury of even putting 2 officers on the boat. The fire department operates the boat, and we have one personnel on the boat to conduct enforcement and those issues, and that's how we've operated, or long before I was even here, is a conjunction between the 2 departments. So, you know, adding, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but the registrations and enforcing it and going out and checking all the boats, and you know, that's not going to be a regular basis type thing, because we only, you know, we're usually out there about 6 hours a day on Saturdays and Sundays during the summertime, just because we don't have the personnel to put on the boats.
But the hope would be is that if you create the revenue, because this thing's here, would create the revenue to be able to pay for an extra person.
And not only that, so you have to have a police officer on the boat to do citations. I don't think you would have to have a police officer just to enforce permits, right? Because it's not a.
Fire department's not gonna get into any kind of enforcement.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe
no,
not.
correct.
But what I'm
Correct,
getting at
not.
is when you talk about creating revenue to do so, it may not require a police officer. It may be require someone to do it that's not as expensive necessarily as a police officer. So it may be a bit easier.
I don't know what mechanism vessel you would use, you know, unless, you know, the city had something, you know, smaller than the safe boat that we have.
Yeah, you start that.
You know, somebody's gonna have to, yeah. So, I mean, I'm not killing the idea, I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, understanding, so you guys have a full understanding of our limitations
No, it's
that
fine.
we have. And the boat that we have is not, you know, it's not the Boston Whaler that we used to have, that, you know, just about any fisherman or somebody could get on and operate.
Yeah.
You know, it's a dual engine, it's dual control, you know, it's a safe boat. So this, you know, the fire department personnel that have been trained on it, I think at one time Tom had 5, now you're down to 3 or 4.
I'm at 5, but I'm gonna lose 1 when he sells his house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, you know, and those are volunteer. So for us, you know, it's easy for me as a chief to assign, okay, you know, somebody's gonna be working on the boat Saturday, somebody's gonna be working on the boat Sunday, which requires us to pull them off the streets. Because, you know, I can't take, you know, half my shift work nights, and I can't bring those guys in to work all day during the day and then have them work at night. It's difficult for Tom George and his personnel, you know, to say, hey, you have to go out and work the boat. I'm a volunteer, I'll work what I want, you know, so.
We ask for them to volunteer their time, and we can't say you have to go.
Yeah, and I will tell you that they are very, very good about, you know, stepping up and working with us and being on the boat and operating the boat. And I think we had one time last year during the summer where one of them was running late. But other than that, we had their personnel to operate the boat for us.
So I mean, the other way to look at it is maybe, at least when talking about buoys, we can look at the mooring ball, because the deal is you're talking about putting buoys and showing where not to anchor, right? If you put mooring balls out there and you say no anchoring period, your only option is to tie up to mooring balls in the areas that we have a mooring ball. Maybe you don't need to then expend the cost on buoys, and you can
Yeah,
just.
I think those are the discussion. I mean, we're not gonna solve it
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
sure.
Yeah, no.
I mean, the other side too is, I mean, if you really look at things that make statements to the community, I mean, the key things is, if you look at it, are like 2 weeks before Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. And, you know, to me, when you put a full court press on those time periods, it sends a message to the whole boating community that you may get cited. So, I mean, I'd be even interested in looking at saying if, you know, there's a reserve officer, or if there's something along that line that we, you know, for just those weekends that we double up, which would mean, you know, you have somebody for 12 hours, 3 days, it's 36 hours, 5 times. It's not that big of a dollar amount, so maybe there's things we can do there and look at cooperation. I don't know, but you particularly in the beginning, if you show the blue and white and you've got people out there that 2 weeks Memorial Day, it sets the tone for the whole season.
So when we bring other officers in from other cities to work?
No.
Okay.
Now, like if the Sheriff's Department's Marine Division wanted to come down here, and they have, and the Coast Guard and Texas Parks and Wildlife have come down, and they come, you know, and they've done some enforcement, but no, not to come down and bring them onto our boat and do our enforcement for our city, because the city ordinance says that Nassau Bay officers,
Okay.
yeah.
Say that again, what did the ordinance say?
The ordinance gives power to the Nassau Bay officers.
We can't assign that to certain folks?
I'm not gonna get in the business of supervising other people's employees.
Right.
Cause I don't have any, you know, if we,
But we put them in our employee, they'd be our contract employee.
I'm not gonna get in that business, because if we bring in another officer from another city, I don't have any control over what they do on the boat. They get out there and they start talking to somebody on a boat in a manner that we're not consistent with. I don't have any discipline power for them, other than you don't come back to work for us again. But if they cause an issue that causes a complaint and a lawsuit, you know, I'm not gonna be liable for somebody I haven't vetted to work under law enforcement for me. So.
Do they come through on any regular schedule? I mean, I see them rarely. It seems
Who's that,
like
the,
Department of Wildlife or the Coast Guard or.
See Parks and Wildlife out there the most.
Yeah, they're the most.
Yeah, they come through when, on their,
And
on their availability.
We
and,
have no input or.
Yeah.
And
And the other thing is, and I don't know if it's gonna change, understand that both Texas Department of Public Safety, the troopers, and Parks and Wildlife, are not as really available as they were, let's say, 3 years ago, because they're being given assignments down on the border on a regular basis. So throughout the state, they're moving, you know, they have, and they're shipped down there for a week or 2 at a time, and that's on a rotating basis throughout the year. So just the availability of those, the troopers and the game wardens, because of the border protection, that the governor has issued, they're moving from, I mean, not just from this area, you know, from North Texas, they get assignments down there. So that's minimized how many troopers and Parks and Wildlife people are out protecting the rest of the state, you know, just because of the border focus.
They're also restricting on their fuel use, because it gets towards the end of the summer, and they can't go out because they don't have the money for fuel. We talked to them about that.
Yeah, when we were looking at this safe boat, we set it up with one of the captains for the Parks and Wildlife, and she took us out on the boat to show us what this boat was capable of doing. Tom and I were kind of tickled because she had to get special permission, and she was extremely happy because she got permission to go out on the boat, because they hadn't been able to put the boat in or take it out of the marina because of that issue. But she was able to get out and drive this boat. She could drive
Sounds
that
like
boat.
the same constriction of wildfires out in California.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you what, she could drive that boat.
Right?
Last week, I was at a restaurant in Seabrook, and there was a couple of guys in there that were Sheriff's Department guys in their khaki uniforms. So I went and just thanked them for doing that stuff, told them about the Dead Boat Society, and then I said, you know, last October I had an event, started at the Hilton, traveled all the way around to the Nassau Bay Yacht Club. And I said, were you guys out here? And one of the guys said, well, I may have been. And then the other guy, and so these 2 guys are talking to each other. They're both about the same age. And one guy says, I said, I was raising money for PTSD. He says, hell, I've got PTSD. And he said, I was in the infantry for 27 years in the Army. And the other guy says, I got PTSD because I'm hanging around this guy too much.
So, you know, I have contacts with the Sheriff's Department in Galveston County and stuff, and they, you know, I reached out to them to come up this way when they were available. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know, with the new sheriff that we have down in Galveston County. I don't know about the Marine Division. I I don't think, I still know who's in charge of the Marine Division, even though they changed the people. But they're restructuring too, so we'll, we can reach out to them and bring them in on some conversations. One of the things with, we did with the, Marine station is all of the marine operations in this area, League City, the Parks and Wildlife, we have shared with them access, the code access to that building.
Good.
And they've
So
been
that
there.
so they can come over here and use it for bathroom breaks
Yeah.
and things, instead of having to go to these restaurants and things like that. Self-serving a little bit to help them, but also to help us because
I haven't seen them do any enforcement. They come in and they go out.
Parks and Wildlife, I've seen them numerous times last year.
Yeah.
arrest
And so,
people.
yeah, I've seen them come in, but usually they come in to patrol. Yeah,
Parks and
come in
Wildlife are the ones
specifically
that
to
you'll, I don't remember how many times I saw them arresting people off boats last year.
I mean, they come in and people scatter.
Mhm.
That's true.
And once they pull the first person over, I'll bet
Yep.
you there'll be 3-4
And
boats.
Coast Guard went out there, like, I remember at least twice them going and
Yep.
checking every single
Every
boat.
single
So
boat.
they're out there, they're just not out there on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good thing, because that way when they do come in, they can make more of an impact.
What
And
is
you
it,
never
what's
know when
a
to come.
camera, I mean, if it was not just the tag camera, but you had a whole camera, what, can you do anything with that?
So the problem is, that, depending on what's happening, but it's much like, driving a vehicle here. We have to be able to show who's operating that vehicle and be able to identify that person. That's one of the reasons that the red light cameras have gone by the wayside because of so many lawsuits. And what most people don't realize is when the red light cameras were, League City had them for a long time, and when they were issuing citations, they weren't criminal traffic violations, they were civil violations against the owner of the vehicle, which is kind of not, if you let somebody use your car, they run a red light and all of a sudden you're getting a civil violation, for somebody who, and that's the biggest problem with the cameras is the funding of the cameras. How much are you going to be able to actually use that and take it? If you've got boats moving in and out and they're not following the wake, are we going to have the ability to that? Do we know who's operating that boat? Just because somebody owns it, and that's the problem for us as far as the enforcement side is not being able to. That's why if you pull somebody over, you identify the driver and write the ticket. That's a problem. I don't know what the cost of the camera would be out there. I would be, and I would hate to say it, but especially out there at the end of the peninsula, those cameras out there by the that's an easy target for theft.
Yeah.
Somebody comes,
But they're cheap now. They're really cheap.
Until you had a officer, they can get them removed or something.
I'm hoping with a camera, if somebody comes there to try to steal it, they may just get recorded. Just maybe.
And the problem, it's not just those cameras. I mean, it's the proliferation of cameras. Everybody knows that there's cameras. We're in the George Orwell society, and people who are doing nefarious acts, they're covering their faces and things before they do them. We've had a conversation before Mayor Johnson was here with other mayors and other city managers, wanting to, should we put cameras up? There's two sides to that coin. The other side of the coin is you have to maintain, it's not necessarily the cost of the camera, but maintaining the storage of those cameras for a certain period of time. And then anything on that camera can be requested through Open Records Act. So then, what kind of staff do we have, personnel or time do we have to, or somebody, one of the concerns when I first got here was brought up about putting cameras, not what we have now, the license plate reader cameras, but regular cameras at entrances, to the city, cameras that are filming. My concern is at some point, somebody leaves for a weekend and they come back, and they put an open records request. I want to know who was in and out of these cameras for the last 48 hours visiting my wife, while I was out of town. Right. And now we have personnel, staff personnel that has to go through all of that to fulfill that open records request. It's not a completely negative idea, but you've got to, how often is that going to benefit us versus the cost of the camera, the storage, personnel, and things like that. So It's just things to think about, not killing an idea, but just, you know, those are things that we have to think about.
So Jason, your brother problem too, I might have mentioned it, what happens with these people when they give their boat away to somebody else, they remove all their TX numbers off, they get a grinder out, and so there's no way to identify who in the hell owned those boats and how many people.
Well, in the
own them.
derelict, yeah, I mean, I was more thinking of boat activity, which in
Yeah.
most cases, they're gonna have TX numbers, but
Correct.
the point is, you can't really identify who's driving
Yeah.
it.
And,
I don't know.
you know, again, you guys are,
I can from my deck,
Yeah, well,
you know,
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, you're closer with Karen.
you guys are the decision makers here, but I know one of the things, I'm not a voter. I'm not a voter, you know, so I don't know, but I know one of the things I took away from the meeting during the summer was all the voting people, voting people were really adamant about that the voting community is, you know, very observant and respectful of no wake zones and things
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
For the most part,
For the most part.
not completely, you know, but, that's one of the things I took away was just that the voting community, if you put something out there telling them what, that, you know, 90+% of them are gonna follow those rules.
I think that's definitely true for no way.
Yeah.
Where that's not gonna hold true is loud music
Noise.
and possibly, rafting up and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? Then it's kinda, I think, I do believe if you put the right signage and buoys out there, you're gonna have very good adherence to that, but the rest of it, probably
What
not.
always scares me in the beginning of the year is watching a brand new boat come around the corner.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, I mean,
And they're-
I think we've kind of managed it like a park up to this point, and, you know, we're changing it. I think a lot of other cities are doing the same thing, and change means you gotta figure out how to do it. And in my mind, and I'll be a horse's patoot for the things, is generally you change behavior because people have to pay something from their wallet. Right, and if people know that they're going to get a ticket if they blare music, then they'll go somewhere else. I mean, they're gonna wanna blare their music,
Yeah.
but they'll go somewhere else.
I mean-
And that's just fine with me.
And that's, you know, just kind of from a charter perspective, I mean, at the end of the day, right, and I hope I'm not offending anybody saying this, but I think the objective is to make that area more enjoyable for the citizens of Nassau Bay,
Yeah.
and not something that.
Well, the analogy I put is if somebody was up beside the chief or yours or who's ever, you know, things, and they have 85, 90 decibels going off at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah,
you do something about it,
that's right,
right? Well, that's what's happening out in the code.
yeah.
So it's residential. So it's the same thing as if you have somebody out on the street blaring the stereo at 90 decibels right next door to you. It's the same thing, and I don't think we have that mentality. And again, it's just, this is how you start out. This is why you have a committee. You think about what, I actually believe the very first thing to do is to get the signage out there. Because I'm with you, is I believe that people, when they really see it, they, you know, I mean, I can tell you, I've noticed a difference on how fast people come through the water since putting up who's small, no wake zones. And a lot of it's because I think the social media picked up on it, and they give it front and center. So I mean, just in that, and I don't even think we have sufficient signage. So I would start simple, and then we just
So,
evolve.
So I think there would no way to cut down traffic. So
Yeah.
You're gonna get less people.
there's a conversation too about no excessive weight or idle speed only.
That's his argument, right? He's like saying it's very clear with no wake.
That was my, because what we
Right.
had before was what was it?
Excessive.
It was
No
ambiguous, it was
excessive-
arbitrary.
No excessive weight.
Yes, how do you measure 2 foot?
Yeah, because when something's already there, you gotta add to
Most
it.
your guys may look at it and say, oh yeah, it looks like it's 3 foot, meanwhile Jim be like, yeah, it's only.
And
Well,
I would say,
but the way the ordinance was read was, it was 18 inches above the current, meaning, you know, so if you had weight action, you know, it's like, how do we
you
determine
can't.
that? And that's why, and I know there was some kickback at the meeting during the summer, because that was it's easier for us to have a definitive, here's a line, not anything subjective.
And it's recognizable by others.
It is. It is.
And most of your most, you know, what do we say, awake, and then they typically say 5 miles an hour, so they kind of address that as well, and that's the general accepted speed around no way. So most of the buoys that you see have those.
But I look at this, if it's very clear, I mean, I'm with the chief here, is that, and I was talking to the, you know, people who've been here a while who had some real issues with the no ways. I said, you know, the whole atmosphere out there has changed in 30 years, right? And I said, I just have a real hard problem with 200, 250 people in the water and people flying through there, you know, like they are. It's just completely unsafe. So now he's right. Now he can look at things where, you know, if they're out there, it's not a judgment call where you know, it's, you know, whose definition, and you go into court if they get a ticket, they ask for information. If you can't quantify it, they'll just pass on the ticket. But not in no way.
So, I think we've got a pretty good springboard of what to jump off of. We've got a whole bunch of things that we can really sink our teeth into. Now, for council to act on any recommendations that we give, what timeline does council need? So let's just say you want something, just hypothetically, you need something by Memorial Day.
So you
What's the
know,
process for council?
we the first and foremost is it needs to get codified, you know, into an ordinance by Dick Gregg and Greg and Gregg, right? And for whatever it say, that takes a month. And then that comes in and that has a first reading, right? And then it has to be carried over there. So you're talking, it'll take at least 2 months on anything that you say you have enough to be able to give to Dick Gregg as to what you want to have done if you're changing the law.
So does that include, I mean, what I understand is that the ordinance as far as no wake is already done.
It is.
Additional signage and buoys,
That's actually
Yeah.
pretty quick.
Okay.
I mean, what I would do there is present to both Paul Lopez and myself,
Okay.
and let us figure out how to pay for it. And then if we have to go to council to make a budget amendment, or if we may ask the Economic Development Corporation to do it, we'll find the money. And I know for a fact that we've got, you know, easily 20 grand over at the Economic Development Corporation to help in this infrastructure. I mean, you're basically building infrastructure to be a no way, and that's all monies that could be done over there and not be on our general fund. So
Did we save the sign, that big round sign, did we save that sign?
I have no idea. I have
Guys
no
know?
idea. But
I don't know anything about signs, where they, what went in and what came out.
Yeah, well, it's on Facebook, so
Public
it
Works.
yeah, there's a huge, you know,
That was
6
you're
foot
talking about-
diameter.
You're talking about that no excessive waste.
Uh-huh.
It's still out there. They just put it's out there. They just have
I don't think so. I think
No,
they
it's
put it all-
not.
Did they?
They removed it, yeah.
Oh, they may have. I don't know.
Which is
Well,
really
it's not
better.
up to
I thought I saw a round sign out there that had a small little.
I think that the plywood is still there.
Yeah, it is.
The
That's
plywood
maybe that.
backing's still there, but the
Yeah.
sign's on.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Public Works might have a sign there, or maybe don't have.
But I would say don't sacrifice and not get what you think you need. I think we want to do this right. Just like we've done things where we're changing, you know, if we break into concrete, we're changing whole panels for a street, or, you know, we're doing a sidewalk, and we're doing stuff for 30 years, not for
Right.
just to be able, instead of just doing something. Because we want this to be, you know, lasting. So, okay. All right.
I like that we're, you know, communicating. I'll just say that, you know, in order to change behavior, right, it starts with communication.
It does.
So I heard something about monetizing things, you know, as far as communicating. This might be painful. I've heard about signage, you know, which is probably like the pointing into the spear, and then can gradually go into things where signage isn't working, right? Then we can talk about these and these sexy things that might happen. It was excellent banter. I'm excited to be part of this committee, and
All right.
hey, zip.
You're gonna see less and less of me play in the front, because I want this to be a regular. I'll probably attend just to help out in case of questions, but it's you guys. I actually think this is probably one of the highest level of people who have knowledge of boats and stuff like that for the special topic of a committee. This has a number of people who really know what the hell they're talking about. So I'm excited about what can come out of it.
I would also throw out there, and Jason, you probably, because you're probably more involved in that, I know Brian, commercial, industrial side, but, I'm thinking this might have been from the meeting again during the summertime, but sharing any new information about operations in the code or around here, sharing that information with the marinas and stuff, and they will push that out to the boaters, is effective.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? So, I mean, if we had, no wake zones, new no wake zones and bollards out there, and things like that, if we put some kind of pamphlet or card or something together and sent that out, and then they can
Distro to their.
distribute it out to,
Absolutely.
do you think that would be?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it sounds like,
That's
what you are talking about was that on the Facebook page, all the
Yeah, it was.
back and forth? Yeah.
I mean, there's
that's,
two in particular. There's the Party Cove,
Yeah.
website or Facebook, and then there's Boaters of Clear Lake. They both have a minimum of 2,000 followers. So you get that out, and it gets out real quick.
And actually, we can go to restaurants and promote it to the voting restaurant, voting committee, and Lakewood, there's all sorts of ways to do it.
Yep.
Coast Guard Auxiliary refers to all of that as their marine partners. So, marine dealers,
Right.
it's,
Right.
Something as simple as West Marine all the way, Marine Max, marinas themselves, showing up at boat launches, passing out information on a busy weekend, doing it when they do their vessel inspections, when they offer the free inspection, push that information out. It can be very useful too.
Yeah.
We did that, during COVID. We put some pamphlet cards together that were being passed out, about, distancing and having distance and stuff like that. So we've utilized that before, so that may be
Yeah.
something for
With
you.
the jet skis.
I have a big, strong belief that a lot of the boaters out there do not know our rules.
Yeah.
They
They
just
don't.
do not know our rules.
Goes back to
On the
community.
jet skis, I think it's one of the big hits is going to the places that rent them.
Yeah.
Tell them that, so
Yeah.
they tell the people that rent the jet skis,
Yep.
because I know that's a lot of what we get through here.
Yeah, it's a big problem Galveston has with the golf carts and stuff down there too.
We'll impound their boat. Anyways, I have to go, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I really do, and I'll leave it, to adjourn, or if you want further stuff.
Well, I think, like I said, we got a pretty good springboard of what we need to look at, especially for the next meeting. I think most of us probably don't have our schedules right now, but here in the next couple of days, we'll shoot out a group email, see what days here in the next few weeks might work.
Did you get the copy of the?
Yes.
Did you give him a copy?
Yeah, everyone's
got a copy.
Everyone's got a
Yeah, I made a copy of
Then I'm putting, guys, as I'm heading to Antigua tomorrow.
So,
We're going to where?
Antigua,
Really?
yeah, we're going to vacation.
Enjoy.
in 2020, we did pass neglected and deteriorating vessels
All right.
ordinance.
Thank you.
And I'll email that out.
So that's still active?
Yeah, it's still an ordinance, I don't wanna say it doesn't have a whole lot of teeth, it does, but it's more for the vessels that are moored here at people, and, they're not painting them, and they're full of mold, and they're
half some.
have some, things like that, so, but anyhow, I'll share that out with you, so you can have that information on that.
I think just strategic communication, right, the signage, the distribution of whatever our, rules, policies, whatever the case may be, expectations.
I know,
I think that's the key.
I know another issue out on the cove is the noise and stuff, and the problem is that people on the shoreline are getting an accumulation of, my guys are on the boat, and they're out there, and they've got decibel meters, and there's no one definitive boat. Sometimes there is, but for the majority, there's not one definitive boat that's, bringing, the noise by itself. But when you stand back over here at the park, or, along somebody's shoreline, you got, 25 boats out there, and they're all, and all that, like Brian said, it just bounces off the water. It's not like, if you're in the park and it's all being absorbed by the grass and the trees and the stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue that we have every summer. Well, nobody's taking care of it. Well, that's not the same issue on the land that it is out there in the water and stuff like that. The other issue is that our noise ordinance, unfortunately, you know, is a decibel level of 55, which I guarantee you, if I put the decibel in right now, us talking in this room, we're above 55 decibels. You know, so-
Well, I think the good news is this is January, so we're getting a good jump on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say I actually have to go back to the boat here in a few, and whatnot. I'm off next Thursday, and I'll be off for just a hair over 2 weeks, this go around, so we're gonna try to maybe set something up within the next 2.5
Yeah,
weeks.
let's do it.
So I'll throw out a couple of dates,
Okay.
see what sticks.
Yep,
and,
sounds great.
Does 3 o'clock work, or do you want to maybe try something a little bit later? I know we gotta consider chief.
I will
chief.
tell you that the last week of this month, the 27th through the 31st, I will be in Waco in police chief training, so I'll be out all week.
I was thinking that more towards the first week of February, give us a couple of weeks to kind of get our bearings and
Okay.
do a little digging on, and get some ideas ourselves.
It works fine for me.
Pretty soon for me.
And I know 3 o'clock doesn't necessarily work great for the general public to come and attend, and at some point, we're gonna want to have a little bit more input from them. Yeah, but I think for at least getting ourselves going,
Yeah.
if 3 o'clock works, I'm good with it.
3 o'clock personally works better.
Works great for
Because
you.
we're already here. There's plenty of late night meetings already.
Yeah, this is the one we consider their time as well.
But I understand your, you know, access, the general public access to the committee meetings,
Yeah.
every once in a while, so.
3 o'clock is fine for me. My Thursdays are kind of iffy.
Okay, so like I said, well, I'll put out an email and we'll kind of kick some days and times around and we'll kind of go from there.
So I'm gonna send out, this ordinance and
I'm gonna send
Tom's
out
gonna
those
send out
maps
the
that
maps
you saw.
to share with everybody and
Okay.
stuff.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And
Good meeting.
the ordinances as far as the zones, that's available?
That's on the website?
Yeah, it's on the website, yeah.
I can dig that out. Otherwise,
Perfect.
I need to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
None.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bud.
Yes, sir, Jim.
Man,
We survived.
oh my God, everything.
You as well.
I'm
So